Attention is now shifted to the long-term forecast for us here in Michigan. In particular, we're seeing an interesting pattern on the models that are going to develop here over the next several days. Let's go ahead and start with the temperature anomaly map. So anomaly maps are basically taking your average temperatures and showing what is below and what is above average, with the reds and the orange and tans, the above average contour color, and the blues and the greens and the purples, the more below average. So currently, across the US, we are mostly cooler than average, with only the East Coast and parts of the West Coast there in a warmer contour, but overall about leaning colder than average for right now for the last half of November. Let's go ahead and move the slider here. This is a European ensemble. So the ensembles are members that ran over and over and over. It spits out an output. So this is a blend of all those put together. So it's not just one model saying, going crazy. It's a bunch of models here showing a trend. Let's go ahead and move this into the last week of November. Pay attention up here into Canada. We see a bulk or a good chunk of cold air here in this big old green blob area that's going to protrude south into the US right about here. This is the Thanksgiving time frame. As you can see, it protrudes south all the way down to Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, but also around that, we're still in the blue color there. So a big plunge of cooler air is coming or looks to be coming for that Thanksgiving time frame. This is the European model. Let's go ahead and switch over here to the American, the GFS model. The GFS model is showing a very similar picture here. Same exact map you're looking at, temperature anomalies. The reds and the oranges are above average. The blues and greens and purples are below average. As we move through the Thanksgiving time frame, a little bit after that, that exact same area up there in Canada, we're looking at the big old blob of purple and blue up there. That's going to protrude south into the US here, right around that Thanksgiving time frame. And it's going to make us much cooler than average for that exact period. So we have both models in alignment here saying we're going to be below average in terms of temperatures. That's our first ingredient and first interesting trend. So we could get our first real taste of winter. What is average here in Michigan? For December, the average temperature is right around 35 to 40 degrees. So if we take that and go below average, we're going to be right around that freezing, perhaps just above that freezing mark in terms of temperatures here. That should be the average or so. Of course, we're going to have days that are warmer and days that are cooler, but when it all averages out, we should be right around that freezing or just above the freezing mark. Now, the second thing we're looking at here is what we call a heights anomaly map. So this is taking into account the average systems and then placing where the model thinks the more active periods are going to happen. So we see a big old blob of blue, so to speak. That's not your temperature, so to speak, but that's more so your systems working through. We have a low pressure overhead of the Great Lakes. That's why we see a big old blue spot there across the portions of the Great Lakes. But shifting attention to the future here, keep an eye on the western part of the US. Here is another system that is moving through the period here, and this is 26. Here's the 27th, and as that enters, we have a system working through around that 26, 27 time frame on the European here, but also eyes to the west. Here's another system working through. And the European model is not loaded out too far here, but I will back it up to the 00Z to get a better idea here and go a little bit further out in advance. But that system also works through here just a few days after Thanksgiving. So we kind of splitting systems here around that Thanksgiving time frame. The GFS shows a very similar picture in terms of its solution. So there's our big old system over the Great Lakes currently. But as we move into the Thanksgiving time frame, there's your next system off to the West Coast. It rides a jet stream, and then this arrives right around that 26th of November again. So a few days before Thanksgiving. But notice out west, we continue to stay active, and then that shoots another system our way, and it arrives right around the Thanksgiving, if not a day or so after. So Thanksgiving week is looking to be quite active. Now, in terms of precipitation, snow, rain, we're not going to know details just yet, but I will say with the cold air coming from Canada, along with these systems, if we can get the right system to take the right track, we will probably see some snowfall out of this. How much and where, we're not going to get specific with that, but I will say the pattern is turning to a more wintry-like pattern where if we are cold enough, this will likely be our first big impactful snow potential. I'm not going to say it will be. It's just going to be a potential time frame to watch. Okay. Looking forward to the future even further, we can go back to the 00Z last night and we can kind of see an idea here that we are probably going to be in an active pattern through the first half of December. We see these blue areas up here. That just indicates the above average systems passing through will continue through that time frame into the first week of December here, but also our temperatures look to stay roughly in the cooler side of things through that same period. So perhaps a 1 to 2 week stretch here of some systems that could bring us some meaningful snowfall. Overall, we're not going to get specific. We're not going to say our first big snowfall is coming yet. We're not confident at all. In fact, looking at the model here I have pulled up, looking at the precipitation depiction here. I did not have this one ready, but I just kind of thought to show you guys this. Taking a peek at this, there's your current system over Michigan over here. But as we move into that Thanksgiving time frame, this model does show here's one system here taking shape. It gives us rain here in Michigan, but further north it says snow, for example. And then that secondary system develops here right around that Thanksgiving time frame. Here's the 28th that develops here. It brings the East Coast some snow, but also snow here in Michigan. But the overall active pattern here continues with a lot of snow potential and a lot of systems passing through. So if you're a snow lover, I do think the upcoming pattern next couple of weeks is going to really satisfy you. But also, if you're a rain lover, I think you may have some shots of that too. That's all I got for you guys. Overall takeaway should be a cooler and more active pattern continues through the first week of December at least. Be prepared for some snowfall, yes, but also be prepared to kind of have some rain in there as well because we don't really know the exact track just yet. With that being said, we're going to end the video on a shout out to our sponsor, Cats Roofing and Siding, based out of Lansing and Battle Creek metro areas. They do roofing, siding, gutters, and windows. Feel free to call them 517-485-9886 if you need some work done on your properties. We'll see you guys in a few days for another update video on how the pattern is looking. Stay safe, guys.